told you last month about a devastating report refuting Pentagon claims that 3 Guantánamo Bay detainees killed themselves there in 2006. Tonight, 4 Gitmo soldiers have come forward, revealing in a Harper's Magazine exclusive what really happened that night and how the cover-up is now being maintained by the Obama administration. The Pentagon first claimed the men had hanged themselves to attack the U.S. in a bit of asymmetrical warfare. Based on a Seton Hall Law School analysis of the redacted report, Navy investigators, NCIS, apparently concluded that the detainees somehow obtained enough cloth to make mannequins of themselves in their beds, to block surveillance cameras, to then braid makeshift nooses tied 8 feet high on the wall, to shove more cloth down their own throats beyond the point of gagging, tie their hands together, then climb up on their sinks, at least one of them with his feet bound as well, get their heads through the nooses, tighten them, and drop to their deaths simultaneously in separate, non-adjacent cells. After our newscast reporting that story, interviewing Scott Horton of Harper's Magazine, one of the viewers that night contacted Mr. Horton. The viewer was Joe Hickman, former Gitmo sergeant of the Army National Guard's 629th Military Intelligence Battalion, who was stationed at Tower 1 that night and noticed a Navy paddy wagon taking a prisoner from Camp 1 and then take a left, which led only to the super-secret Guantanamo site known as Camp No. Camp No's existence was unknown till today. The Obama administration has not acknowledged its existence. After the van retrieved a second prisoner, Hickman went to a checkpoint where he visually confirmed, after the van got a third prisoner, that Camp No was the destination. The Obama administration's official story still today is that the guards took all 3 to the clinic from their cells in Camp 1 after finding the first of them at 12:39 in the morning. But Hickman had been back in Tower 1 by 11:30 at night and saw the paddy wagon unload something at the clinic directly from Camp No. A guard at Tower 4, also with a clear line of sight, corroborated to Horton Hickman's claim that no one was brought from Camp 1 to the clinic. The next morning, Harper's reports, Colonel Michael Bumgardner told Gitmo guards the detainees choked on rags, but not to dispute the official story of hanging. Today, Bumgardner denied nothing specific. Quote, "This blatant misrepresentation of the truth infuriates me. I don't know who Sergeant Hickman is, but he's only trying to be a spotlight ranger. He knows nothing about what transpired in Camp 1 or our medical facility. I do. I was there." Except that on June 17th of that year, in a sworn statement to NCIS, Bumgardner had written, quote, "On the night of 09 June 06, I was not in the camp." After President Obama's inauguration, Sergeant Hickman told his story to the new Justice Department. In April, the FBI asked one of Hickman's guards whether he would ID the sites if they took him to Gitmo, but they never did. The Department of Justice did nothing more about this until October 29th, 2 days after Hickman started talking to Congress secretly. When they suggested the investigation was done, Hickman asked them about witnesses still not interviewed. Within 4 days, the FBI asked, quote, "a few questions of one witness and 2 others," and closed the investigation. With us now in his first TV interview since breaking this story is Harper's Magazine contributing editor Scott Horton, also an adjunct professor at Columbia Law School and a longtime human rights activist. The story is on newsstands February 15th. It's online now at harpers.org. Welcome back.
Great to be with you.
All right. Sergeant Hickman approached you after our last interview here. Why? What does he think happened? And what does he want now?
Well, he watched Countdown, and he saw our description and summation of the Seton Hall report, and he wanted to add pieces that were missing from the puzzle. And in fact, he added quite a few. I've spent most of the last month dealing with him and his colleagues, piecing things together. And I have to say their accounts add up perfectly. I see no problem with them. And they contradict decisively the official narrative that the Joint Task Force in Gitmo put out, as well as the Bush administration.
Sergeant Hickman gave us an exclusive statement tonight that responds to the statement from Colonel Bumgardner. Let me read that in entirety. "I am disappointed by today's statement from Army Colonel Michael Bumgardner because I know what I witnessed at Guantanamo Bay. I look forward to testifying under oath before Congress at the appropriate venue. I stand by my story." Can you support that?
Yeah, in fact, I was puzzled by Colonel Bumgardner's statement because, in fact, I know from talking to all these soldiers, including Sergeant Hickman, that they all like Colonel Bumgardner. In fact, I would say their statements even reflected a great degree of affection towards him and disappointment that he wound up being dismissed. So there's no animosity to that. Moreover, then I looked very closely at all of the official narrative that Colonel Bumgardner presented, and there is no conflict between Sergeant Hickman's narrative and Colonel Bumgardner's narrative. In fact, Colonel Bumgardner makes clear he was not there at the camp all the way up till quarter to 1 in the morning. And the critical events that form the basis of this narration occurred between 7 and roughly midnight.
So who killed these men? Do you know?
We don't know, and I think one thing we should all be cautious about is rushing to any conclusions about how they died, because previously the prior investigation was over before it began. They hung themselves in their cells, and it was suicide. That was a decision that was that was a conclusion that was being forced from the top. That's clearly not a correct conclusion. I think now we know where they died. And one of the big questions is, who's the landlord at that facility? Yeah. Who was running it? It really seemed to have been off the map for the Guantánamo command. Many of the soldiers speculated that this was a CIA facility. Other information we see suggests maybe JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command.
Oh.
But frankly, I don't think this is something that was being run by the prison guards and the Gitmo command.
So, as I referred to it earlier, it's a Gitmo inside a Gitmo.
That's correct.
The Justice Department pushed back, as I understand it, against you naming names about their people, but not about the specifics. And if they're covering this up, then why are they doing so? Are they doing so unwillingly, and for whom are they doing it?
Well, that's an interesting question. In fact, we made some pretty harsh accusations about the Justice Department's role in the cover-up, including the position or things that had been done by the FBI in the first days after these events, where they appeared to be attempting to intimidate people, prevent them from talking about what was going on. We talked about the Justice Department filing what appeared to be false statements with federal court. No questions raised by the Justice Department about any of that. In fact, what they came to us with was their severe complaint that certain Justice Department lawyers were identified by name as having appeared in certain interviews. They don't deny that the interviews occurred. They don't deny that what was said in the interviews was said. They just don't want these individual lawyers identified by name. They want them to be anonymous lawyers and FBI agents.
Well, that's a clear and convincing response that would indicate to you that your reporting is somehow flawed in some superior way. I hate to laugh on this subject, but that's such an extraordinary response. There seems to be nothing to do but laugh in a sad way.
It's disappointing because I think in this entire matter, really one of the central failures really seems to be by the Department of Justice, which is not behaving like a law enforcement agency, finding the facts of criminal activity. In fact, the Department of Justice appears to be acting like a criminal defense law firm that realizes is closely connected to people who are involved with some very serious heavy lifting crimes, and it wants to cover them up. That's not what we expect of our Justice Department.
One would hope not. Attorney Scott Horton, also of Harper's Magazine. The magazine's out on February 15th, and the story is already online, and it's an extraordinary thing. It's a document. Great thanks for it and for your time again, Scott.
Great to be with you.